Rain sluiced down the cracked pavement, pooling in the grooves of the sidewalk as it soaked through the worn canvas of Maria Delgado's wheelchair cover. She maneuvered through the glass door of Rosie's kitchen, just off a dusty strip in El Paso, Texas. The door's bell jingled, sharp and tinny, cutting through the low hum of a jukebox playing some forgotten country tune. The air inside carried the tang of fried onions and stale grease, clinging to the cracked vinyl booths. Maria's hands, calloused from years of gripping wheels, pushed her forward, her faded army jacket sagging off her shoulders, too big now for a frame that hadn't carried its old strength in years. Her wheels left faint wet tracks on the linoleum, and she felt the eyes, quick, cutting glances from the handful of patrons hunched over their plates. She didn't look up. She never did. Maria settled at a corner table, the kind with a wobbly leg nobody bothered to fix. Her duffel, patched with duct tape, slid to the floor with a soft thump. She fished a crumpled $10 bill from her pocket, smoothing it against the tabletop's chipped formica. Coffee, maybe a burger if she could stretch it. That's all she wanted. The waitress, a woman in her late 20s with a name tag reading Tina, approached, her steps slow, her eyes darting from Maria's wheelchair to the duffel, then to the faded insignia on her jacket. "You ordering?" Tina asked, her voice flat, like she was already halfway out the door. "Coffee, black, and a burger, plain," Maria said, her tone even, her dark eyes steady. Tina scribbled on her pad, hesitating. "You got money for that?" Her words weren't loud, but they carried, and a few heads turned. Maria slid the 10 across the table. "That cover it?" Tina glanced at it, then at the manager behind the counter, a wiry guy named Sal who was wiping down a coffee pot with a rag that looked older than the diner. He gave a curt nod, and Tina shuffled off. Maria leaned back, the chair creaking under her weight, her legs unmoving beneath the table. Outside, the rain blurred the neon lights of a pawn shop across the street into a hazy red glow. She exhaled, trying to shake the weight of the day, the endless roll of her wheels through wet streets, the ache in her shoulders, the way people looked right through her unless they wanted to stare. The bell jingled again, and two cops swaggered in. Officer Travis Boone and Officer Derek Salazar. They were locals, regulars by the way they nodded to Sal without breaking stride. Their uniforms were crisp, their boots dry, their presence heavy. Maria didn't know them, but she didn't need to. Men like that carried a certain smell, confidence mixed with something sour, like they owned every room they walked into. They scanned the diner, their eyes landing on her like a spotlight. Boone, stocky with a buzz cut that screamed ex-high school football, sauntered over first, his belt creaking with every step. "You alone here?" he asked, his voice loud enough to make the diner go quiet. His eyes flicked to her wheelchair, then to her face, lingering on the scar that ran from her temple to her jaw. Maria met his gaze. "Just me and my coffee." "Problem?" Salazar, leaner, younger, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, leaned against a nearby booth. "Looks like you're taking up space. This ain't a shelter, you know?" "I'm a customer," Maria said, her voice steady but sharp. "Paid for my food. You got a law against sitting now?" Boone snorted, nudging her duffel with his boot, harder than necessary. "This your luggage? Looks like you're camping out. People might trip over this junk." Maria's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. "People might trip over your ego, too, but I'm not complaining." The diner went still. A fork clattered against a plate. Tina froze mid-step, clutching a coffee pot. Sal looked up from the counter, his rag pausing. Salazar's smirk vanished, replaced by a scowl. "Watch your mouth, lady. We're just keeping things orderly." "Orderly?" Maria's voice was low, cutting. "You're kicking my bag because I'm in a chair and don't look like I belong in your little diner fantasy. That's not order. That's you picking a fight." Boone leaned closer, his hands on his hips, his voice dropping to a growl. "You don't get to talk to us like that. You're just some drifter who rolled in here, thinking you can make a scene." Maria's eyes didn't waver. "I'm not the one making a scene. I'm trying to eat. You're the ones who can't handle a woman in a wheelchair buying a burger." Salazar stepped forward, his voice dripping with disdain. You think you're special because of that jacket? We've seen plenty of you types. Vets who come back and expect handouts, clogging up places like this. Maria's fingers curled around the edge of the table. You ever serve? She asked, her voice calm but laced with steel. Boone laughed, a short, ugly sound. What's that got to do with anything? You're not in some war zone now. You're in our town, and we don't need your kind loitering. Your kind, Maria repeated, letting the words hang. You mean a Latina vet who can't walk? Or just anyone who doesn't kiss your badge? The air in the diner thickened, the kind of tension that made your skin prickle. A man in a trucker hat at the counter shifted uncomfortably. A teenage girl by the jukebox pulled out one earbud, her eyes wide. Tina set the coffee pot down, her hands shaking slightly. She paid, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I rang her up. She's not doing anything wrong. Boone ignored her, his eyes locked on Maria. You need to roll out of here. Now, we've got reports of vagrants causing trouble in this area. Vagrants, Maria said, her voice flat. That's what you see when you look at me? Not the Bronze Star I earned in Kandahar? Not the shrapnel that took my legs? Just a problem you can shove out the door. Salazar's face twisted. Don't play the hero card. You're not impressing anyone with that sob story. Get your stuff and go. Maria reached into her jacket, slow and deliberate, pulling out a battered flip phone, its screen cracked but glowing. Boone scoffed. What? You calling your lawyer on that piece of junk? No, Maria said, flipping it open. Just someone who actually listens. She dialed, her eyes never leaving Boone's. Hey, Javier. It's Maria. I'm at Rosie's kitchen, off Route 62. 2 cops here are giving me grief. Badge numbers. She glanced at their name tags. Boone, for 72. Salazar, 819. Yeah, I need you to pull a string for me. Fast. She snapped the phone shut. The diner was dead silent, the kind of quiet where even the rain outside seemed to pause. Boone's face hardened. You think some phone call's gonna scare us? You're nobody. Maria leaned forward slightly, her voice low and steady. You don't know who I am, but you're about to find out. Salazar shifted, his hand resting on his belt. This is a waste of time. Get her out of here. But before anyone could move, the bell jingled again. A man in a dark blazer strode in, his boots clicking against the linoleum. He was young, maybe early 30s, with a badge clipped to his belt that glinted under the fluorescent lights. He flashed it at Sal, then turned to the room, his eyes locking on Maria. Delgado? He asked. She nodded. Good to see you, Javier. He turned to the officers. Officer Boone? Salazar?
Detective Javier Ortiz, El Paso County Interne Lafayette.
Step outside. Now. Boone's face flushed red. This is bullshit. Who the hell are you? Ortiz didn't blink. I'm the guy who got a call from a woman who saved my ass in Mosul. You're the guys who just picked the wrong fight. Outside. Let's go. Salazar hesitated, but Boone stormed toward the door, muttering under his breath. Ortiz followed, his phone already out. The diner stayed frozen, every eye on Maria. Tina stepped closer, her voice soft. You okay? Maria exhaled, her shoulders loosening slightly. I'm fine. Just tired of this crap. Tina glanced at the door. That was internal affairs? For real? Maria nodded, taking a sip of her coffee. It was cold, but she didn't care. He's a friend. Used to be Specialist Ortiz. We went through some stuff together. Outside, the rain kept falling, but the scene in the parking lot was heating up. Boone was pacing, his hands gesturing wildly. Salazar stood by their cruiser, his arms crossed, his face pale. Ortiz's voice was low, but his words carried weight. You've been flagged before, Boone. 3 times, excessive force, intimidation, all swept under the rug. Salazar, you've been his shadow, backing him up every time. That ends today. Boone snapped. You've got nothing on us. This is harassment. Ortiz held up his phone, a small recorder app glowing on the screen. Everything's on tape. From the second I walked in. Plus, Maria's call? Archived. You want to push this, it's going statewide. Inside, Maria watched through the window, her coffee untouched now. She wasn't angry. She was focused, her eyes sharp, the same way they'd been when she'd scanned rooftops for threats overseas. Tina lingered nearby. Who are you, really? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Maria's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Just a vet trying to eat a burger. But people like them don't see that. They see a Latina in a wheelchair and think, easy target. The teenage girl by the jukebox edged closer, her phone in hand. Were they gonna arrest you? Maria looked at her. They wanted to. Thought they could push me around because I don't look like I belong. But I don't break easy. The girl nodded, her eyes wide. That was badass. Outside, a new car pulled up, a black SUV with a county seal. A woman stepped out, Captain Elena Vargas, her face set in a hard line. She spoke to Ortiz, then turned to the officers, her voice sharp enough to cut through the rain. You're off duty, effective immediately. We're reopening every complaint tied to your names. Boone's voice rose. This is a setup. That woman's just some homeless vet with a grudge. Vargas didn't flinch. That homeless vet has a Bronze Star and a friend in my office. You, on the other hand, have a stack of complaints that never saw daylight. Get in the car. The diner was quiet again, but it wasn't the same. The trucker at the counter was typing on his phone. The teenage girl was whispering to her friend. Tina brought Maria a fresh coffee, her hands steadier now. On the house, she said. Maria nodded. Thanks. Ortiz stepped back inside, brushing rain from his blazer. They're done for now, he told Maria. Suspension's just the start. We're pulling every file they're tied to. This goes deeper than today. Maria looked up at him. Should have happened years ago. I know, he said. But you made it happen now. I owe you, Delgado. Mosul wasn't the last time you saved me. She shook her head. Just make sure it sticks. He nodded. It will. By the time Ortiz left, the diner had settled into an uneasy calm. Maria sipped her fresh coffee, the warmth of the mug grounding her. The teenage girl by the jukebox was still stealing glances, her phone now recording a shaky video. The trucker at the counter had stopped typing, his eyes fixed on the parking lot where Captain Vargas was still talking to Boone and Salazar. Their voices were muffled by the glass, but the tension was clear. Boone's hands were clenched, Salazar's head hung low. Maria didn't need to hear the words to know what was happening. She'd seen that look before in debriefs after missions gone wrong, when someone realized the consequences were finally catching up. Tina hovered nearby, wiping the same spot on the counter for the third time. You didn't have to do that, she said, her voice low. Stand up to them, most people would have just left. Maria set her mug down, her fingers tracing the chipped ceramic. Most people don't have a choice. I'm tired of being the one who's got to roll out just because someone with a badge feels like flexing. Tina nodded, her eyes flicking to the floor. I should have said something sooner. When they started in on you, I just froze. You spoke up, Maria said. That's more than most. Outside, Vargas climbed into her SUV, and the two officers got into their cruiser, their faces unreadable in the rain-streaked light. Ortiz stayed in the parking lot, his phone pressed to his ear, pacing as he spoke. Maria watched him, her mind drifting to Mosul. The dust, the heat, the way Ortiz had looked at her after she dragged him out of a collapsed checkpoint. Her own legs still working then, her body still whole. That was a lifetime ago, but the bond it forged was ironclad. She didn't call in favors often, but when she did, they landed hard. The diner's door stayed quiet now, the jukebox looping back to another twangy song. Sal, the manager, finally emerged from the kitchen, his face tight. You need anything else? He asked Maria, his tone more cautious than before. She shook her head. Just the burger I ordered. He nodded, disappearing again. The teenage girl edged closer, her phone now tucked away. You really a soldier? She asked, her voice a mix of awe and curiosity. Was, Maria said. Still carry it, though. The girl tilted her head. Why'd they mess with you? You weren't doing nothing. Maria's eyes softened, just a fraction. Because it's easy. Pick someone who looks like they can't fight back, and you get to feel big without risking much. Except they didn't know I don't play that game. The girl grinned. You showed 'em. Maria didn't smile back, but her expression warmed. I just reminded them the world's bigger than their badges. The burger arrived, plain as she'd asked, the bun slightly soggy from the grill. She ate slowly, her eyes drifting to the window. Ortiz was gone now, the parking lot empty except for the cruiser's taillights fading into the rain. The diner felt different, less hostile but not exactly safe. It was just a pause, a moment before the next fight. Maria knew that. She'd been in too many towns, seen too many stares, to believe one phone call fixed everything. But it was a start. By the next morning, Ortiz was back in his office in downtown El Paso. A cramped room with stacks of folders and a flickering fluorescent bulb. He'd spent the night pulling files, every complaint tied to Boone and Salazar, some dating back 5 years. There were 9 in total. A street vendor roughed up for obstructing a sidewalk. A homeless man cited for disorderly conduct after asking for water. A young woman who'd reported Salazar for inappropriate comments during a traffic stop. Most were marked resolved with no follow-up, signed off by Captain Vargas's predecessor. Ortiz's jaw tightened as he read. Resolved didn't mean justice. It meant buried. He called Maria from his desk. You were right, he said. These two have been at it for years. Same pattern, targeting people they think won't talk back. Vets, minorities, anyone down on their luck. Maria was sitting outside a shelter on Alameda Avenue. Her wheelchair parked under an awning to keep the rain off. You got enough to nail them? She asked, her voice steady over the crackling line. More than enough. There's a hearing next week. They're already trying to negotiate early retirement to avoid it going public. She was quiet for a moment. Retirement's too easy. They need to answer for it. They will, Ortiz said. Your call put them on the radar. We're auditing everything now, and Vargas isn't playing. She's new. Doesn't like loose ends. Good, Maria said. Make it loud. A week later, Maria met Ortiz at a small taqueria near the shelter. The rain had stopped, leaving the air thick with the smell of asphalt and cilantro. Her duffel was still with her, but she'd swapped her army jacket for a cleaner one, a gift from a volunteer at the shelter. Ortiz spread a stack of documents across the table, his coffee untouched. These go back to 2017, he said. Boone's got a history of strong-arming anyone who looks vulnerable. Salazar's been enabling him, signing off on reports covering tracks. There's even a complaint from a rookie who tried to call it out and got transferred. Maria scanned the papers. Names jumped out, people like her, people who'd been invisible until they weren't. A vet who'd been hassled for sleeping in a park. A single mom who'd been threatened with arrest for loitering outside a clinic. I've seen this in every town I've rolled through, she said. Cops like them bank on silence. They figure we're too tired to fight. You fought, Ortiz said. And you broke that silence. She shook her head. I just made a call. You did the heavy lifting. That call started it, he said. You didn't let them push you out. Maria sipped her soda, the ice clinking against the glass. Why do guys like Boone even sign up? It's not about protecting. It's about control. Ortiz nodded. Some people want the badge so they can push people around without consequences. But you showed them consequences exist. She looked at him, her scar catching the light. You think I should testify? If this goes to a hearing, it'd make a difference, Ortiz said. Not just for you. For the vendor who got his cart tipped over. For the kid who got slammed against a cruiser for talking back. Your voice carries weight. Maria exhaled, her fingers tapping the table. I'll do it. But not for me. For the ones who didn't have a number to call. They sat in silence, the kind that comes when the truth is too big for words. Outside, the street hummed with life. Cars rolling by. A vendor shouting about fresh tamales. Maria's eyes drifted to her duffel, then back to Ortiz. You got a place to crash tonight? He asked. Shelter on Alameda, she said. They hold a spot for me when I call. He nodded. If that changes. Don't. She cut him off, her voice firm but not unkind. I don't need fixing. I need people to stop treating me like I'm broken. Ortiz smiled. Fair enough. But we're getting this story out there. It's bigger than Boone and Salazar now. The story broke the next week. A small segment on the local news, tucked between weather and sports. El Paso officers under investigation, the anchor said, flashing grainy headshots of Boone and Salazar, their smiles frozen in time. The diner got calls, some angry, some supportive. Sal posted a statement online, claiming Rosie's Kitchen was committed to all patrons. But the comments section lit up with stories, people who'd been hassled, dismissed, or worse. Tina called Maria a few days later, her voice shaky over the phone. I didn't say enough that day, she said.
I'm sorry.
Maria was sitting on a bench outside the shelter, her wheelchair brakes locked. You said something. That's more than most. I saw you and I didn't think, Tina said. I should have done more. You learn, Maria said. That's what matters. The investigation snowballed. Boone and Salazar were officially suspended, their pensions in jeopardy. A 2018 complaint resurfaced. A street musician who'd been detained for playing without a permit, his guitar broken in the scuffle. The department had called it an isolated incident. Now it was evidence. Community groups rallied, demanding transparency. Reporters camped outside the precinct. At a city council meeting, a man named Carlos stood up, his hands trembling as he held a photo of his brother, a vet who'd been harassed by Boone years earlier. I filed a report, Carlos said. Nobody listened. Until now. Maria didn't go to the meeting. She was at the shelter, helping distribute blankets to new arrivals. A woman named Rosa, who'd lost her apartment after a medical bill, asked her, You the one who took down those cops? Maria handed her a blanket. They took themselves down. I just made sure someone was watching. Rosa smiled. About time. The next morning, Ortiz called. It's done, he said. Boone and Salazar are out.
No pensions.
Vargas got reassigned to desk duty while they audit her approvals. The department's offering you a commendation. Maria was folding laundry at the shelter, her wheelchair tucked beside a table stacked with clothes. No, she said. They don't get to pin a medal on me for cleaning up their mess. Ortiz paused. What do you want, then? For the next person to be heard, she said. No questions, no excuses. Just listen to. A month later, Rosie's Kitchen had a new sign in the window. Veterans welcome.
No exceptions.
It wasn't much, but it was something. El Paso City Council passed a rule mandating public access to complaint records for 7 years. A new community liaison was hired, someone who'd worked with shelters before. Maria didn't stay for the press conferences or the photo ops. She moved on to Las Cruces, an hour's drive north, where she started helping at a veteran outreach program, sorting donations, teaching basic computer skills, listening to stories from people who'd seen too much and lost too much. One evening, as she swept the program's front porch, Tina showed up, holding a paper bag. Found you, she said, smiling. Brought tacos. Hope you still like carnitas. Maria stopped sweeping, her hands resting on the broom. You drove all this way for tacos? And to say thanks, Tina said. They sat on the steps, the desert air cool, the sky streaked with orange. Tina hesitated, then asked, You ever think about telling your story? Like, writing it down? Maria chewed slowly, the carnitas sharp with lime. It's not a story. It's just what happened. Messy, ugly, real. That's why it matters, Tina said. People need to hear the messy stuff. Maria looked out at the horizon, where a group of volunteers was unloading water bottles from a truck. A kid on a bike laughed, his voice carrying across the lot. I learned something that day, she said. Respect isn't about a uniform or a title. It's about what you do when nobody's watching. You saw something wrong, Tina. You felt it. That's what changes things. Not yelling, not fighting. Just that little voice in your gut saying, This ain't right. Tina nodded, her eyes bright. I didn't ignore it this time. Because of you. Maria didn't answer right away. She just kept eating, the bag crinkling in her lap. Later, as Tina got up to leave, she paused. What's next for you? Maria shrugged. Keep moving. Keep listening. Make sure the next vet who rolls into a diner gets to eat in peace. Tina smiled. That's not small. It is, Maria said. But it's enough. That night, Maria sat in her room at the outreach center, her flip phone on the table. It hadn't rung in days, and that was fine. She wasn't waiting for calls. For the first time in a long time, she was somewhere she could just be. No questions, no stares, no demands to prove she belonged. She closed her eyes, the desert quiet outside, and exhaled. The fight wasn't over. But for now, she'd carved out a little space for herself and others like her. And that was enough.